my friends are simps.
Today I'm going to be taking a wee look at a pair of open back headphones called Ghost. These come from a company, or at least a brand, called Thieaudio or Thieaudio or Thieaudio. I'm not really sure how to say that. I did try and look it up, but I couldn't find anything definitive, so I apologise profusely in advance. These are produced by Audio, and I reached out to them specifically to ask if I could get a hold of a pair to try them out for myself, because I kept seeing them advertised and I thought they looked pretty cool, and so this is where we're at now. As far as I can tell, these are meant to be a relatively affordable entry point to the world of open back reference style headphones. Apparently, these use a 40mm sapphire composite dynamic driver, and I'll have to look at my notes here to get the exact wording, but they consist of a ceramic metal composite layered on a thermoplastic polymer film stabilizer. Now, to be honest, I've got no real idea what that is supposed to mean, so I'm just going to tell you what my overall thoughts and, subjective experience with these headphones is, but perhaps that'll mean more to you than it does to me. So first off, let's talk about the build quality and my initial impressions of these things overall. Taking them as a whole, these headphones do look pretty nice, and actually that's part of the reason I asked Linsol to send me a pair to try out. They've got this nice kind of zigzaggy black metal grille on the sides, which I find to be quite fetching, although I can see why some people may not love the gold detailing. The ear cups themselves have got this kind of plush velour style material on them, which I actually found to be surprisingly comfortable. Firm enough, but also soft enough. Now, as somebody that's got rather freakishly large ears, I think, and also a whole bunch of piercings and glasses, it can be difficult to find headphones that actually sit nice and comfortably over my ears. However, these do the trick. They don't feel like they're clamping down on any individual part of my ear or getting uncomfortable because of my glasses frame or anything like that, so that's a plus. The ear cups do tilt up and down, but they don't swivel side to side much. It's just the kind of material that will flex, if that makes sense, as opposed to it being built into some kind of rotational system. One feature of these headphones which I want to highlight, because it's probably fairly easy to miss, is the inclusion of rubber padding behind the ear cups. This means that they don't kind of smack off of the metal headband and make an unpleasant noise when you take them on or off, which is a really nice wee detail. The headband is made of metal, and the foam padding on there is actually very pleasantly squishy. In terms of adjustment, the ear cups essentially just slide up and down, although there's no real kind of firm indentations in there to lock them in place. It's more held by tension, which isn't the greatest, I don't think, but it does the job. Generally, they seem decently enough put together for the price point. Now, the one thing I would say is that whilst the headphones do feel, sturdy enough and well put together, they are extremely lightweight, and that is perhaps where the name Ghost comes from. I think the reason for this is that the ear cups and also some of the connections are, a type of plastic. And lots of people, don't get me wrong, will love this. I know there's plenty of folks out there who prefer lightweight headphones because it makes them more comfortable to wear for extended periods of time, and that is true. However, I am somebody that prefers a bit of a chunky, heavyweight headphone because it feels reassuringly solid on my dome. So, depending on your own preferences, the lightweight nature will either be a really positive thing or, not your bag. So what are some of the key features of Ghost? Firstly, they've got this dual interchangeable 3.5mm cable, which means that you have a stereo 3.5mm mini jack connection one end and two mono individual mini jack connections on the other side. Now, this is a really big plus point because it means you can swap out the cable to something that fits your own preference, and I think that's particularly good because even though the cable that comes with it is decent enough, it is this weird soft touch flat thing. It has 4 cores in there, which is good, but it might not be your particular preference. I think it's a bit of a strange, it reminds me of a tapeworm or something, which is probably not what I should say. However, at least you can change it out if you want to, which isn't always the case with other headphones in this price bracket and even beyond. Also included in the box is quite a nice semi-rigid hard case, which means you can, chuck them in your bag and not worry about them getting all bent out of shape and messed up. And of course, the 3.5mm to 1/4 inch jack adapter, which will be necessary if you want to plug it into your I don't know, your amp or your sound system or something like that. You can never have too many of these, by the way, because every time you let somebody borrow them, you know that you're never going to get that jack adapter back. Now, stating the obvious, these are open back headphones, which provides quite a different experience to closed back headphones. If you don't know what I'm talking about, effectively, well, they have open backs, so the plastic or whatever kind of material that the ear cups are made out of are not sealed, they have holes in them. This allows greater airflow. It's meant to make them a bit more comfortable to wear over longer sessions because your ears, in theory, don't get quite as hot. But also, it gives you this different kind of more natural sound. At least that is the way the story goes. And in practice, that does tend to be the case. The one thing to be aware of with open back headphones is that whilst the listening experience is generally pretty pleasant, there's nothing to stop the audio leaking out to the outside world. So if you're wearing them in an office or something like that, then you're bound to piss off your colleagues. But also, there's no active noise cancellation. There's nothing to stop all of the audio that's out in the world getting in. So if you're trying to block out people on the subway who are talking about, I don't know, their junky grandmother or something like that, then you're not going to be able to. Everything's going to get in there. You're going to hear every word of the conversation. And so that's the trade-off for having improved audio quality. Ultimately, open back headphones suit people who are working from home, those who are sitting on their own listening to music when no one else is around that they could disturb, or perhaps those that want to play their PlayStation at night with somebody else in the other room, where they can afford a wee bit of leakage, but you get the kind of improved quality from the open back nature. In terms of the technical side of things, these headphones have got an impedance of 60 ohms with a sensitivity of, I think, 91 decibels at 1 kilohertz. Now that means that they're a wee bit more power hungry than I would like to be able to drive them from, you know, regular consumer audio goods such as your laptop or your phone, and they really do benefit from having an external DAC or amp where you can kind of ramp up the power a wee bit. However, to be honest, I've been using them with my MacBook Pro, the 16-inch, and also my phone, and they sound fine like that. They're not the greatest of audiophile quality, perhaps, but they do the job just fine. If you want to get increased quality and more out of them, then yeah, of course, use an additional DAC, but you don't need to. Okay, now we'll come on to the sound portion, which is always the most controversial part of any headphone review. And at this stage, I'll give you my usual caveat, which is that I am not some kind of technical audiophile. I'm not going to be giving you the frequency graphs and talking about individual bands or anything like that. Instead, I'm going to offer you my very subjective and personal opinion and experience from somebody who makes a lot of music, who listens to a lot of different types of music, and who for a long time has tried out a whole bunch of different types of headphones. So take that as you will. What I will say is that I wasn't actually expecting a huge amount from these headphones, if I'm being honest, particularly in the bass department, but actually I was kind of caught off guard and pleasantly surprised with just how much bass was in there. Now these aren't particularly heavily bassy headphones by any stretch of the imagination, but they do have a nice warmth and presence that I wasn't really prepared for. The bass isn't really particularly well defined in the sense that it doesn't have a crispness or a texture to it, if that makes sense, but it does have this roundness which is actually, you know, quite nice to listen to. And yes, I know nice is not the best adjective in the world, but you get what I'm trying to say. When it comes to the treble and mids, they further add to the niceness of the overall character of these headphones because they're not particularly harsh or sharp in any way. They've got enough of an airiness about them, but they don't fatigue your ears over a longer period of listening. And to be honest, overall, it provides this fairly pleasant, well-rounded, well-balanced listening experience. Whilst I like this for kind of casual listening, it does mean that if you want clarity or detail or a kind of excited sound with a bit more harmonics in there, then this maybe isn't the set of headphones for you. Separation in terms of where the instruments are placed around your ears is decent enough, although the soundstage isn't quite as wide as I might have liked from an open-backed set of headphones. To be fair though, these are 129 US dollars, so I'm not going to get too picky about that. So as I've been testing out these headphones over the past couple of weeks, the one set that kept coming to mind as a kind of natural comparison point were the Beyerdynamic DT990 Pros. Both sets are open back, They've both got dynamic drivers, and they've also got similarities in their style and construction. The cost differential, of course, will depend and fluctuate based on where you live in the world and what time of year it is, so take all of this with a bit of pinch of salt, but there was something like a 60-ish Great British pounds price difference when I was looking them up, and in some ways I think it would be fair to say the Ghost is kind of a budget alternative to the DT990 Pros, specifically, by the way, the 80 ohm version, not the 250 ohm version, because they're a kind of a different beast. Now, one benefit I think of the Ghost headphones over the 990 Pros is the fact that it has that interchangeable cable. Something that I don't really love about the 990s is the fact that it's got a fixed cable, and if you damage it, it's a real pain in the arse to have to replace, and I'm also not a big fan of the coiled cable. So with Ghost, you're able to change it out for whatever type of cable you want, or replace it if it gets damaged, which is actually a big plus. Similarly, with Ghost, you also get the hard case, which you don't get with the DT990 Pros, and so that's a kind of added bonus point in terms of value for money. Now, obviously, cost isn't everything when it comes to headphones. You want them to sound good as well, and whilst my DT990 Pros are the 250 ohm version, which makes it a wee bit harder to compare the two like for like, I have to say that the quality of the Ghost headphones was perfectly fine, and I didn't actually see a huge difference between them and my Beyerdynamics, at least not to the extent that it would be worth, you know, spending the extra £70 or whatever it might be. Yeah. When it comes to the big bad world of headphones, there is an increasingly crowded marketplace, and there's a seemingly endless variety of different options available at every possible price point and quality level. So where exactly does a Ghost kind of fit into all of that? Well, coming in at $129 US, these are some of the cheaper open back headphones that you're going to find, particularly considering what you get with them. If you've never tried open back headphones before and you want a decent sounding set to start exploring, then I think these are really good value for money and well worth your time and consideration. Ultimately, I think these are really decent headphones for their price bracket, and I have to say that I actually enjoy listening to music on them, which is kind of the whole point, really. So with that, goodbye.